Hello and welcome to Global Television News. I'm Uyi Agmofwegbe. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has welcomed an investment of $520 million in specialized agro-processing zones by the African Development Bank, AFDB, praising the president of the multilateral institution, Dr. Adewumi Adesina, for further opening up the economy for investments that provides job opportunities and reduction in poverty. This was disclosed in a statement signed by Dele Alake, the special advisor to the president on special duty global parks in Paris. President Tinubu said the agro-industrial project strengthens an area of the country's competitive advantage as a particular aspect of priority that requires foreign direct investment, FDI. The president urged the bank to inject funds into projects that target women and youth empowerment, while appreciating the AFDB president for his vision of setting up a youth entrepreneurship bank in Nigeria that will provide credits, skills, and other support for young Nigerians. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has concluded his official trip to Paris, France, during which he participated in the summit for a new global financing pact hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. This was disclosed in a statement signed by Dele Alake, special advisor to the president on special duties, communications, and strategy. Aside his participation at the event, where he advanced the cause of lower-income countries, including Nigeria, the president also held sideline meetings with fellow heads of state and government, global business leaders, and chief executives of leading multilateral and development finance institutions from around the world. The president used the opportunity to project his advocacy for widening the fiscal space, economic justice for Africa as the world accelerates the pace of energy transition, as well as the urgency of addressing the pressing issues of poverty and climate change. President Tinubu was initially scheduled to be back in Abuja on Saturday. We will now proceed to London, United Kingdom, on a private visit. The president is expected back in the country in time for the Eid al-Kabir celebration. President Bola Tinubu on Friday in Paris, France, had described Nigeria's financial system under suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, as rotten. He cited the difficulty in the flow of forex in and out of the country, saying it enriched a few people while impoverishing the vast majority of Nigerians. A statement from the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation explained that Tinubu's comments came exactly 2 weeks after the CBN chief had been suspended to pave the way for the investigation of his office and the planned reforms in the financial sector. The president said he and his special advisor on monetary policy, Mr. Wale Edu, had turned the fortunes of Lagos State around between 1999 and 2003, moving the internally generated revenue, IGR, from 600 million naira annually to 50 billion naira monthly. The president, who described Nigeria's challenges as enormous, said he was prepared for the job ahead of him. While the president has been away back home, Vice President Kashif Shettima says Nigeria will address the concerns that surround the financing of the primary healthcare system in the country. The vice president said he's at a meeting with some governors under the auspices of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Alhaji Aliko Dangote and Bill Gates, at the banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja. Our correspondent Prince Adigoke tells us more.
While acknowledging the threat facing Nigeria in the area of polio, Vice President Shettima averred that Nigeria's 3-dose pentavalent vaccine coverage has improved from 33% in 2016 to 57% in 2021.
We don't intend to slow down until we deliver on our promise to eradicate the variant polio virus by the end of 2023. We won't stop until we build a robust institutional framework to ease access to vaccines and ensure palliatives. We won't stop until we ensure that the resources deployed by our partners and our counterpart funding are disbursed for the intended purpose.
The vice president further stressed that the federal government is committed to eradicating variant poliovirus by the end of the year, ensuring that every Nigerian child is covered in the routine immunization campaigns.
We have come this far because of these collaborative advocacies and utilization of our combined resources, and I assure you that we are going to utilize the National Economic Council, to which I and each of the 36 state governors belong, to adhere to the Abuja commitments. These commitments are built on the promises to achieve a polio-free Nigeria, strengthen routine immunization, and improve primary health care under the Council's supervision.
Earlier in his remarks at the interactive session, Mr. Bill Gates disclosed that his foundation had recently announced the intention to commit $7 billion to Africa in the next 4 years to support routine immunization in Nigeria and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative in northern Nigeria. Also in his remarks, Alhaji Aliko Dangote stated that Bill Gates and himself have been partnering with both the federal and state governments for several years, supporting the efforts in eradicating polio and improving routine immunization, nutrition, and primary health care in the country.
Since Bill's visit in 2018, we have supported the government's efforts on human capital development. We genuinely believe that the National Economic Council and the decisions that you make together over the next 4 years will determine whether Nigeria has strong economic growth, citizens healthy, contribute to achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
In separate remarks, the chairman of Nigeria Governors Forum, Alhaji Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, and some governors who spoke at the party lauded the philanthropic interventions of the Dangote and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations in critical areas, including healthcare, education, agriculture, and human capital development.
As we work towards recovery and further building the resilience of our people in Borno State, following the devastating impact of Boko Haram insurgency, I would like to specifically request for your more support towards improving agriculture, working directly with smallholder farmers and government and national NGOs that are not afraid to go to where poor people live.
It is a governance issue, managing scarce resources to do so much. And the MOU that we have signed, Bauchi is one of the states that benefited. And today I can say without fear of contradiction that we have done so much because of the templates that we have brought out.
National State is similar to what you can see actually in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, or Lagos and Ogun State and the rest of that. And a good example to tell you is recently Nigeria had their trial census. When they had the trial census, one local government is taken out of all the 6 geographical zones. Locally for us, National State was selected, and Karu local government was selected.
The governors, however, expressed the readiness to further collaborate with the Dangote and Gates Foundations in the coming years.
The People's Democratic Party, PDP, and its candidate, Atiku Abubakar, on Friday called another witness who tendered more evidence before the Presidential Election Petition Court. The PDP and Atiku were challenging the declaration of Bola Tinubu as the elected president in the February 25 election. Through their subpoenaed witness, the practitioners, Mike Enao Eba, tendered Tinubu's academic records and personal particulars in aid of their petition against the president. Led in evidence by the petitioner's counsel, Chris Uche, SAN, the witness identified himself as a lawyer and human rights activist and adopted his written deposition filed on June 20. Enao Eba, in the course of his testimony, tendered before the court certified copies of academic qualifications of the president, which were admitted in evidence and marked as exhibits by the court. The court also admitted in evidence and marked as an exhibit Tinubu's certificates of service from Mobil Oil Nigeria PLC and a copy of his Guinean passport. The witness, among other evidence, tendered before the court a transcript that was issued in 1977 by Southwest College. He said the transcript established that Tinubu, who attended Chicago State University, was a female. Let's take a look at some other stories quickly. The Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, Trade Union Congress, TUC, and civil society organizations, CSOs, have rejected the planned 40% hike in electricity tariff, which is proposed to take effect on July 1, calling on government to shelve the increase. While the NLC described the proposed increase in tariff as insensitive and callous, TUC says it is the height of insensitivity to the suffering of the masses of the country. On their part, CSOs asked the government to immediately shelve the proposed tariff hike, describing it as unfair and unjustifiable. It will be recorded that in announcing the tariff increase, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC) had said the current service-based tariff, also called SBT, was benchmarked on an average rate of 441 naira to the dollar and inflation of 16.97%. It argued that since the value of the naira to the dollar now hovers above 700 naira and current rate of inflation at 22.45%, it is necessary to increase tariff to mitigate operators' cost of operations. The union, in a statement by the President, Comrade Joe Ajaero, advised the government to shelve the proposed tariff hike in the collective safety of the masses. The tariff hike, which comes amid a monthly subsidy of about 50 billion naira in the electricity sector due to revenue shortfall, is set to challenge President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration's market reform efforts. Following President Bola Tinubu's announcement of the retirement and replacement of the service chiefs, the 22nd Chief of the Air Staff, Hassan Abubakar, has taken over the mantle of leadership from his predecessor, Air Marshal Oladayo Amao, at a handing and taking over ceremony held at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force in Abuja. Kikelemo Okere completes the story.
As tradition, a parade was conducted to welcome the Chief of the Air Staff. Speaking at the handing and taking over ceremony on Thursday, the former Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladayo Amao, says, despite the challenges, his tenure recorded many successes. He urged his successor to ensure the service attained a greater height under his watch.
Contributed tirelessly to the improved safety records we currently have in the service today. I want to commend your loyalty and dedication to duty. I therefore urge you to put in your very best to consolidate on the various achievements to further propel the Nigerian Air Force to greater heights.
In his remark, the new Chief of the Air Staff says his administration will continue to build on the legacy of his predecessor to move the Nigerian Air Force to the higher pedestal.
Appointment is coming at a time that the expectations of Nigerians towards accelerated actualization of peace and security is very, very high. I want to use this occasion to restate our commitment to reinvigorate our fight against terrorism, insurgency, banditry, and a host of other challenges bedeviling our dear country.
The high point of the event was the taking over of the mantle of leadership by the new Chief of the Air Staff. Kikelemo Okere, Global Television News, Abuja.
The Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has predicted cloudy weather and storms between Friday and Sunday across the country. NIMET's weather outlook released in Abuja forecasts a cloudy atmosphere in the northern region with prospect of thunderstorms. Some of the states expected to be affected by the climatic change were Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Kaduna, Taraba, and Adamawa states. NIMET further noted that the prospect of thunderstorms are expected over parts of Borno, Adamawa, Kano, Bauchi, Kebbi, Zamfara, Katsina, Gombe, Jigawa, and Taraba states. And for areas where thunderstorms are expected, strong winds are likely to precede the rains, and as such, trees, electric poles, unsecured objects, and weak buildings may be felled. The agency therefore advised the members of the public to be cautious. It further advises the public to stay indoors, especially during heavy rainfall, to avoid being struck by lightning. All airline operators are therefore advised to avail themselves of weather reports periodically from NIMET for effective planning in their operations. Moderate to heavy rainfall, they say, could lead to flash flood. In the meantime, prediction by the Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NIMET, that some states in the country will be hit by floods and intemperate climates. Some parts of the Federal Capital Territory have started experiencing flooding occasioned by the heavy downpour on Friday. The video you see on your screen now shows Mopol 50 in the Koba area of Abuja and gives an insight into the extent of the rain's impacts. You're watching the Global TV News coming to you live on StarTimes channel 276 from Nigeria's capital in Abuja. Remember to follow us across social media platforms at Global TV NG. And when the news returns, CBN urges banks to intensify due diligence on politically exposed persons. These and more stories coming shortly, right after this break. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on the news here on Global Television. The Central Bank of Nigeria has ordered banks and other financial institutions in the country to regularly screen accounts of politically exposed persons. It stated this in its circular to banks and other financial institutions on Friday, titled Guidance Notes on Politically Exposed Persons, which was signed by the Director, Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Chibuzo Efobi. The CBN explained that domestic PEPs are those trusted with prominent public positions in Nigeria, while those entrusted with prominent public position in any other foreign jurisdiction were foreign PEPs. It noted that in view of the corruption level in Nigeria, domestic PEPs were rated highly vulnerable to financial risks, and therefore, by default, most domestic PEPs were considered high risk. The CBN said customer due diligence should continue after establishing a relationship with the customer. The Adamawa Taraba Area Command of the Nigeria Customs Service has said that the removal of fuel subsidy had led to a significant reduction in the smuggling of premium motor spirits, also known as fuel. In a statement, the Customs Area Controller in charge of the command, Salisu Abdullahi, stated this over the weekend while briefing journalists on the command's activities in May. He said that during the period under review, the command confiscated 14,980 liters of premium motor spirits packed in drums and jerry cans. Abdullahi added that during the period, the command recorded 16 seizures of different contraband. He explained that the NPK fertilizer was seized because of the restrictions placed on the movement of the product, especially in the northeastern states. Global leaders attending this week's Paris Summit for a new global financing pact have praised the African Development Bank, AFDB, for its role in boosting the special drawing rights, also called SDRs, of low-income countries. According to the leaders, the solution would enable rich countries reallocate part of their special drawing rights to lower-income countries through multilateral development banks. They stated that the technical solution would preserve the asset reserve status of the SDRs and unlock hundreds of billions for Africa. A statement from the AFDB explained that the bank and Inter-American Development Bank had been leading calls for the reallocation of the SDRs through multilateral development banks to help rebuild livelihoods due to the impact of climate change and other global challenges. While speaking at the pre-summit forum's opening on Thursday, the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said the African Development Bank had launched an initiative to channel SDRs to multilateral development banks, which would increase their impact fivefold. This initiative, he says, should be a source of inspiration. Away from the issues around the pact in France, the Norwegian government has committed an additional $4.5 million in support of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization's humanitarian activities in addressing the lingering crisis in the northeastern part of Nigeria. The Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO representative in Nigeria, and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Fred Kafiro said this during the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding ceremony between the UN body and the Norwegian government in Abuja. Kafiro said the support from the government of Norway has amounted to $24 million since the beginning of the crisis, and it has reached over 1 million people affected at the present and still counting. For the 2023 Humanitarian Response Plan, Kafiro said that FAO, being a key provider of livelihood supports in the food security sector, has set up a target of reaching 2 million people, and that currently only 56,000 individuals have been impacted. The two-day Climate and Finance Summit has been concluded in Paris as world leaders aim to set up concrete measures to help poor and developing countries whose predicaments have been worsened by the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged to deliver a to-do list that would be accompanied by progress tracking tool. Several activists and non-governmental organizations have urged the summit participants to ensure that rich countries commit to debt relief for poor nations, including the cancellation of loans. A debt suspension clause for countries hit by extreme climate events was also discussed. The summit's first day included announcements of a pair of deals. Many officials from poor and climate vulnerable nations attended, with only two top leaders from the group of 7 most developed countries, Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, in audience. A senior high school student had died, with 21 others injured at an extinguisher explosion during a fire drill at Regina School in Thailand. The explosion has sent the extinguisher flying towards the victim, who was about 10 meters away. Police has been investigating the cause of the incident, according to the scene, which remained scattered with debris. Officials added that the extinguishers used in the drill have all been sent to the police's forensics division. A permanent said Ministry of Education officials have also been sent to the school to determine what happened. He expressed condolences to the relatives of the dead student, adding that the ministry would assist and compensate those affected, according to the nation. As we look at sports now, Arsenal are set to make a £100 million offer for West Ham captain Declan Rice as they try to fight off competition from treble winners Manchester City. The Gunners have been on the run to secure the signature of the English midfielder since last season. Rice has been an integral member of the West Ham team that won the 2022-2023 Europa Conference League after beating Italian side Fiorentina by 2-1. The Gunners had submitted an initial offer of £90 million, which was rejected. And that's it on Global TV News, live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Don't forget, we're on Star Times, channel 276, and you can follow us across our social media platforms. The handle is at Global TV NG. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Muyi Agumofwegbe. I'll see you again.